Welcome to this video training lesson on Web Application Web Server Crawling. In this video, we are going to see some techniques and tools to crawl a website to determine what pages and resources the web application contains. This is a very important phase of our information gathering steps because it expands our attack surface by detecting resources on which we may run security tests later on. The first thing that we want to do is to set up our machine and our web browser in order to track and store the target resources via Burp Suite. So let us start Burp Suite and configure the proxy option. As you already know, Burp Suite is a tool that is not only able to proxy connections to intercept communication, but it also spiders websites to determine what is running on the web server as well. So what we need to do first is to take a look and check that the proxy is up and running. Here we have our proxy listener enabled on our localhost interface. Moreover, let us be sure to intercept all requests and responses by enabling the checkbox here. We can then open our web browser and configure its proxy to work with Burp. Note that the following is the web application that we will use for our test. Let's now go into the Preferences options and set the manual proxy configuration with the same options set in Burp. Now we should be good to go. Let us request a page to verify that everything works fine. Great. The proxy configuration is well configured, and Burp is able to intercept the request. Let's then disable the intercept here, so we will not have to forward each request and response. Note that even if we disable this option, Burp will still record all of the communications. Now we have to configure the scope of our tests. This will ensure that our tests will be run only on the target web application. So let's go back into the web browser and copy the target application URL. Then back in Burp, let's open the Target tab, then Scope, and then click on Paste URL. Now that we've defined the scope of our tests, let's filter the results of the Sitemap tab to display only in scope items. Right now, we have everything set and we're good to go. In order to crawl the target web application, we can right-click on the item here and select Spider this host. But we can also open the Spider tab and enable the spider by clicking on Spider as Paused button. The spider has many different options that we can set by opening the Option tab. At the beginning, we can set the spider behavior. For example, we can instruct Burp to check the robot.txt for further links and resources, or specify to request the route of all directions and so on. Moreover, we can set the maximum link depth. With higher values, we will have, of course, more results. In the Passive Spidering section, we can instruct Burp to keep spidering the host while we browse it. This may be useful if while navigating the website, we access a page that was not automatically detected by the spider. In the Form Submission settings, we can tell Burp what to do when it finds a form. We can select to don't submit forms at all. Always display the form before sending it in order to inspect it, and at the end, we can tell Burp to automatically fill the forms with the following parameters. So for example, if the form has a field named Mail, Burp will automatically fill it with the following value and so on. Note that even if we select this option, if Burp is not able to automatically fill the form fields, it will prompt the form on screen and ask us to compile it. In the next section, we have specific options for login form. This is very similar to the previous settings. Here we can tweak the Spider engine in order to run on more threads, as well as how to behave on network failures. At the end, we can edit the headers to send for each request of the spider. This may be useful if we want to set a specific user agent, if we need to set specific cookies, and so on. So now that we know the spider options, let's go back in the previous tab and enable it. Once enabled, let's request a page from our web browser in order to trigger it. After a few seconds, a pop-up named Submit Form appears. The spider automatically detects the form and asks us to type the username and password for it. Here we can see the URL of the target form, which, as you can imagine, is the login form displayed in the browser right before. So let us type in the username and the password and click Submit Form. In case you do not want to submit the form, you can click on Ignore Form. The spider is running, and here we can see the amount of requests made. Let's keep the spider running in the background while we inspect the results in the Target tab. Here we can see and inspect all the resources found. On the left side, we see the tree view of the resources, organized by folder. On the right side, we have all the requests performed. In the first column, we have the host address, then the method used to request the page, and the URL of the resource requested. In the params column, we can see if there is any parameter involved in the request. So here, for example, we have no parameters, while here, where the box is checked, it means that there are some. We also have the status. Keep in mind that a 200 status is a valid status, and then we have a few other columns with other information regarding the request. Notice down here at the bottom, we can look at the raw request of the item selected above, the parameters, the actual headers that are involved, and the hex view of the request. Moreover, we can see the response to that specific request by clicking on the Response tab, and here we have a few other different views. For example, we have the HTML returned by the web server, and we can also render the page. Note that if we want to inspect a specific folder or path, we can go into the tree view on the left, select our items such as the admin folder, and the right panel will be populated with only the requests with that specific path or resource. So this is basically how we can spider the host with Burp Suite in order to get a list of all of the available resources on the target application. And this concludes our training video lesson on Web Application Web Server Crawling. Thanks very much for joining us.